This is Mrs. Claus's favorite story. Okay, it's called "Twas the Night Before Christmas," and it was written a long time ago, and it talks about Saint Nicholas, Saint Nick.
Santa Claus.
That's Santa Claus. He has many names. Oh, Santa here. Sometimes we call him Saint Nicholas. Sometimes we call him Nick. Sometimes we call him Chris Kringle. Most we call
But
him
my
Saint-
favorite name is just Santa.
I call him Honey.
Not always.
But this book, they refer to him as Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nick.
And this was written so long ago. This was before we've got Rudolph. So there's 8 reindeer, not 9. Now we have Rudolph that has joined the elite 8, have you? But I want to read you this because this is what they call a classic. I'm sure all your parents have heard this. Your grandparents have
I know
heard
what
this.
classic is.
You've heard this one before?
No, you know what classic
I heard,
means.
but I
Oh.
know what classic means.
Oh, classic. There you go.
It's an original. It's old.
It's old, and many families read it every Christmas
Like
Eve.
Mrs. Claus. She's a
This-
classic.
The elves, the elves love me to read this one too. So I'm going to read it. It's called "The Night Before Christmas." Go. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care in hopes that Saint Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Ma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn I heard such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh with 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick.
Come on in.
More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. This is Comet.
Amazing, huh?
Comet is our strongest reindeer. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and Saint Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney Saint Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot.
That's from the chimney.
A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. And I heard him explain as he drove out of sight,
Merry Christmas to all. Does anyone know the end? And all a good night.
Absolutely.
Very nice.
Isn't that great?
That was fantastic.
That's my favorite story. Here's one of my favorite books. This is my favorite book. One with
Is this the
Night Before
one on
Christmas.
vacation?
This is the one. Remember I took that vacation back in 2002?
And you got homesick?
Well, I did. Has anybody ever heard this one? About Mrs. Claus takes a vacation? Well, let me tell you.
It's Mrs. Claus that went on vacation.
Have any of you come to visit me before? Have you seen me? You don't see me at the malls or places like... You did.
I've seen this.
Okay, good. But generally,
That was a special day.
he doesn't take me out much. So I've used to spend a lot of time at the North Pole with all those elves and all that snow.
Well, we need her, and this was during the summer.
Well, yeah, and I got a little antsy about it. So I decided Santa goes out and visits all the children all over the world all the time. He has all the fun. I stay home with the elves. I thought I should have a vacation. So I told him so and went on a vacation. And then when I got home, I wrote a book about it. So this is Mrs. Claus Takes a Vacation. Okay? Mrs. Claus had never taken a vacation in her life. This year, she was determined to go traveling. Snow, snow, and more snow, she told Santa. Well, I'm tired of it. You get to see the whole world every year. Now it's my turn. Let's see how you like sitting home. So she packed her bags, hitched a reindeer to the sleigh, and waved goodbye to Santa. Don't worry, dear. I'll be home before Christmas Eve. Of course, that's his big day, right? This is Mittens, our kitten. Have you ever heard about Mittens, our kitten? That's Mittens, our kitten.
How many people have a kitten?
How many have you got?
Yep.
Oh.
That's Mittens.
But with each passing day, Santa did worry. Mrs. Claus isn't used to warm weather, thought Santa. She'll get sunburned. He worried so. But Mrs. Claus didn't mind the sun at all. And here I am at Cape Cod. Has anybody been to Cape Cod?
I'm going.
Oh, you are!
Isn't that a
Did you see
special
me?
place?
Did you see me at Cape Cod? I was vacationing there. That was in 2002. I love Cape Cod.
And
It's
that was
so
her
much fun.
special bathing suit.
Yes, that's not my bikini. That's the other one. She doesn't know all the world's languages, thought Santa, and she has never been around so many different kinds of people. I bet she's terribly lonely. Santa was lonely.
I was hoping she was lonely.
Santa and Mittens were lonely. But Mrs. Claus had no trouble making friends. I could make friends everywhere. Here we were in Romania, and there's our reindeer. We took Clyde, reindeer Clyde, and here I am, and we were dancing traditional dances of the country. She must miss gingerbread cookies, thought Santa, as he baked his very first batch of gingerbread cookies.
I had to make my own cookies because Mrs. Claus was on vacation.
And they were so bad that he wouldn't eat them, and the elves wouldn't eat them. He had to feed them to the reindeer.
And they wouldn't eat them either.
They
were
really,
burnt.
they were really bad. But Mrs. Claus didn't miss gingerbread cookies at all. Well, maybe a little bit. Here I was eating octopus. That was in Japan. Way fun. I bet she wishes she was here to help the Christmas preparations, thought Santa, as he put decorations all around the house, including a wreath around Mittens, right around his head. Oh. Mrs. Claus didn't give the house a passing thought, but she did wish Santa had been with her. This house is called the Taj Mahal. That was in India, when I was in India.
Very special house.
It was. Mrs. Claus will be so disappointed to have missed decorating the tree, thought Santa, as he hung the last ornament. And this is always the last ornament we put on the tree. With Santa and Mrs. Claus, isn't that a special one? It's always our last one. Mrs. Claus did miss decorating the tree. She started seeing Christmas trees everywhere, and Christmas wreaths, and snowmen, and mistletoe. She knew it was time to go home.
It was time to miss home.
Mrs. Claus returned on Christmas Eve day. Santa greeted her with a big hug and a kiss. Home at last, he said. He really missed me.
Before the big day.
After dinner, Mrs. Claus showed Santa souvenirs from her vacation. Soon Santa had to get ready for his trip. He pulled on his boots, put on his mittens, and handed Mrs. Claus her coat. "What's this?" she asked. "I know you're probably had your fill of traveling," Santa said, "but how about one more last trip with me?" "I wouldn't miss it for the world," she replied, and that's the year that I went with Santa on his big trip.
For Christmas.
And we were so happy.
That was very special.
Isn't that a great story? That was a great vacation.